Coordinated, episode 292. Teammates, AP Program Delivery. Greetings, AP coordinators. I'm Karli, school counselor and AP coordinator. Thanks for joining us. It's Monday, September 8th, 2025, and today I have the opportunity to chat more with one of our College Board teammates. Mike Sherman, an executive director on the AP production and delivery team, is back to talk about his journey to AP, and even more specifically, the journey to building the 2026 AP exam administration schedule. I, for one, can't wait to get into the details. It's time to do this. Let's go, AP coordinators. It's time to get coordinated. Good morning, Mike. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today.
Thanks for having me back. Love the podcast.
Of course. I specifically asked Derek if we could have you back on because I have a lot of questions for you and a lot to say about the AP exam administration for 2025. But before we get into that, I would love to rewind for our coordinated listeners and hear a little bit more about your journey to the College Board and AP. We are teammates here. And by we, I mean AP coordinators and our friends who work at the College Board in AP. So with that being said, if you don't mind, let's take it all the way back to high school. I'm curious to know, were you an AP student yourself, Mike?
I sure was. I know I took AP Bio, but I admit I don't recall each course I took. But because I knew we were recording this podcast, I went and I found my college transcript in hopes that it would list it. And it didn't. It didn't list out the courses or grades, but it said I transferred in 21 credits and 4 of which were a language proficiency. So in addition to bio, I know for sure I took Spanish language, and I must have done okay back in Mil Novecientos Noventa y Uno.
That's amazing. I think it's always so interesting to hear about our journey as students and to remember that we were all in that place at one time. So it sounds like you knew about College Board in some way as a student, but how did you come to work at the College Board?
Well, at that time of my career, I was already in the education space, and I had worked in the technology department at both a startup ed tech software company named SchoolNet, and then later on at McGraw-Hill Education. And I wasn't really looking to move, but I was contacted by a recruiter to come work for the Enterprise Information Planning Group at the College Board, a group that was charged with centralizing all of College Board's different databases from all our different programs into a centralized view of a student or an educator or a school. And I took the job.
Wow, that sounds so complicated to me. So what drew you to this specific line of work?
So what drew me into the space was not so much education, but it was the opportunity to work at a small startup, that company SchoolNet. So prior to that, I was in the financial sector and I had been laid off, and I had some choices to stay there. I always tell the story. I had a choice to go work at Goldman Sachs, and I could have been retired by now, or go work at a nondescript company named SchoolNet. And I was given the advice that said, if you want to go and stay and do what you're doing now, go work at Goldman Sachs. But if you want to learn how a company works and all the ins and outs, go work at a startup and really learn. And I did. I took the advice and I learned. And once I was there, I really became fixated on the subject matter and how education was kind of a universal playbook to give kids a better shot at life. And then I was like, this is where I need to be.
That's amazing. And we're so lucky that you chose this path because now we get to work with you here as AP coordinators. So, Mike, I know you've been on the podcast before, but if you've listened to any of the AP coordinator interview episodes, you might know that a large portion of my fellow AP coordinators are, well, I like to call it volun gifted, this job. Well, some absolutely do apply for it, and we love our volunteer AP coordinators too. You obviously applied and wanted to be here with College Board in AP, even if you got recruited. So I would love to hear what your favorite part about working in AP is now.
Well, the trite answer is my colleagues. Of course, great people, smart, funny, dedicated, and all different places and points of view they've come from. You don't see that mix of educators and technologists and business folks in every company. But beyond that, I really enjoy the structure of the annual cycle of the school year and how that lays out a roadmap for my team's work for the year and how we could kind of pick apart processes in there and try to find better ways to do them to make life easier for students and educators. We'd really try.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Mike. It's nice to hear directly from our friends in AP to remind ourselves that we are all separate pieces working on the same puzzle to promote success and academic rigor for our students. And for you, Mike, students worldwide. So, Mike, this is the Coordinated Podcast, the podcast made by and for AP coordinators. So I'm specifically interested to know, what are you specifically responsible for that relates directly to us AP coordinators?
My team is responsible for everything that happens to a student's exam from the moment they start the test in May until the score is released in July. So it's a lot of planning that happens outside of those months and then a lot of execution within those months. And specifically, we're responsible for the logistics related to taking the exam, whether it's on paper or digital or hybrid, capturing the kids' responses, getting them rated. And what I mean for rating for the free response section is that means the AP reading, where it's an event where we have over 30,000 educators score student work. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. And then ultimately reporting them out to the students, schools, and colleges. And of course, as you know, I'm responsible for making the exam schedule.
Yes, and I cannot wait to talk about that, which this seems like a great time to transition towards what you do in the world of AP and the highly anticipated annual AP exam administration schedule. I know it's not just me that gets that excited. I know I mentioned at the beginning that I had a lot to say about the schedule from May 2025, and I would love to start with that first and get it off my chest if you don't mind.
Yes, let's get that over with. Hoping it's a good news, bad news situation.
That is funny because the only bad news for me is that the 2026 schedule has changed ever so slightly from the 2025 schedule. Because, in my opinion, the 2025 schedule was smooth, uneventful in the best way. And I hesitate to even say this out loud. Don't tell my school. But I had a morning test free and 2 afternoons that were test free too. I seriously had to pinch myself. Was I dreaming? Was this schedule made specifically for me at Costa Mesa High School? Of course, I'm joking about that. I know there's so many considerations that go into the creation of the AP exam administration schedule. And if you wouldn't mind, today I'd love to ask you about maybe the top 3. Yeah, let's go with the top 3 considerations you and your team have in mind while building the schedule.
Well, I'm glad you like the schedule so much. We aim to please. So top 3 things. First and foremost, we want to set the students up to do their best. And to me, what that means is we want to be thoughtful to minimize how often students have conflicts or what we call adjacencies. And with the conflicts, it means that the kids don't have to test in the later window when it's often very inconvenient for the schools and the students. And for the adjacencies, which means taking a test in the morning and the afternoon, we want to reduce that cognitive load on a student. And so while it's unavoidable, we do use data to inform which exams pair well together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because when you're trying to, as an AP coordinator, administer the exams, you are always looking for those students that potentially have 2 exams on the same day, same time. And I feel like that has, at least for me, been way less. I'm not seeing that as often. So thanks for looking out for that for us.
So next, we consider the exam schedule in relation to the AP reading schedule in June. And so readings typically have an early and late session, which is very similar to the 2 weeks of the AP admin, but the subjects don't match up for a ton of logistics reasons at convention centers and hotels. And so this is especially important for hybrid or paper exams where we have to scan the free response booklets and there's a matter of shipping things back and then bottlenecks at scanning machines. So we aim to align the administration week with the reading week so that we're able to elegantly pull off that operation.
Yeah, that sounds like an incredible task and a lot of planning and work that goes into that. And I know that AP coordinators are extremely good at doing that kind of planning and moving things around. So that also makes a lot of sense that that would be one of the reasons as we're moving forward into getting their scores back. So those were the top two. So what about the third, Mike?
All right. So the last consideration that we'll talk about here is grade level. So we don't love putting subjects where there are a lot of underclassmen, say a human geography in the afternoon, because we know that sometimes our tests run long and they run into bus schedules, and we try to avoid that where we can.
Hmm. Hmm. That makes sense for me at my school. Our AP Human Geography is a ninth grade class. So it's interesting how all of those different factors go into building the entire AP exam administration as you're thinking about it from year to year. So thanks for thinking about that so we don't have to. And now that we've heard the top three main considerations when building the schedule from year to year, now when you think about this last school year, this last administration, is there anything specifically that stood out from this year that created a change in the schedule?
Absolutely. Yes. The introduction of digital testing, fully digital testing, opened up a lot of new opportunities and will continue to do so. Once you no longer have to scan something or ship something, it creates a lot of flexibility, and you could get those good pairs of exams even better than we have today.
Hmm. I would love to talk so much more about that in the digital world. Is that okay if we keep asking more questions about
Sure.
that?
Sure.
Okay. So, what can I say? I'm an AP coordinator. I like to be as detailed as possible. You're lucky you can't see my color coded notes here.
I believe it. And we appreciate the time and coordination that goes into your AP exam administration every year, and all AP coordinators across the world.
Well, thanks, Mike. Speaking of time, I wanted to touch on one more thing.
You got it.
Awesome. So, as we all know, like you just mentioned, there was a big shift last year to fully digital and hybrid digital exam formats. So, did that change make any big adjustments in what you do?
It did, and notably in the late testing schedule. We were able
Hmm.
to shift the late testing dates from a traditional 3 day schedule on the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of the
Hmm.
third full week of May to all 5 days because there was no shipping involved in a fully digital exam. We were able to put them on Monday and Tuesday. And what this did was it helped smooth out late testing and reduce conflicts even in that window, and then reduce
Hmm.
the number of students that had to juggle difficult schedules and maybe even move to exception testing.
Hmm. Yeah, I will also say that the digital format really did help speed things along in terms of the prep time and the testing time too. I found myself having way more time for a break in between my morning and afternoon test sessions due to less collecting, sorting, packing, getting all my materials ready. And that gave me more time for coffee and lunch and to run to the bathroom. All amazing, coveted things for AP coordinators during AP exam administration.
So glad to hear that, Karli. I'm glad to hear that in some small way, we're making AP coordinators' lives a little bit easier.
Yes, absolutely. And we appreciate it. Well, believe it or not, Mike, that was my last question. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope I didn't put you in the hot seat for too long. AP coordinator, inquiring minds need to know.
It was great. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
And I can't believe I'm saying this in September, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out in May. AP coordinators, the AP exam administration schedule for 2026 is live now. Link in the show notes. Now is the time to take a look and see which days you'll need different rooms for different subjects testing at the same time. Book your rooms for what are typically your biggest testing days. Calendar the exams on your work calendar and your leadership's calendars. I know we have quite some time between now and AP exam administration weeks in May, but thinking through now helps to keep our calendars synced, our leadership in the loop, and our schedules very, coordinated. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode you won't want to miss. I'll talk with you then. and for all our support of AP students. Yep, our support. AP coordinators, we are truly good as gold.
And maybe I just don't know. I'll say it over and over and over again till I believe it's so. I'm good as gold.
Hey, Karli, what is happening, my friend?
What's happening? Derek, don't you know?
I might, but let's not ruin the moment. I have a feeling you can't wait to tell me.
What's happening is the AP Coordinator Back to School Workshop, our annual can't miss event of the year. It's time to engage with fellow AP coordinators in these free, interactive Zoom sessions. Registration is now open. Sign up for your preferred date and time.
The workshop is perfect for all AP coordinators, new and experienced. And interactive is the key word, not a recording, not a video. Our team of colleagues is live, ready to help, and ready to answer questions on the fly.
Bring it on. We'll be ready. And we love to hear from you. Register now. Link in the show notes. We can't wait to see you there.